Today's Sunshine Note is titled, For Such a Time as This. And who knows but that you have come to royal position for such a time as this. Esther 4:14. As we leave this house, let it be with the purpose to be grateful to God for having brought Abraham Lincoln to the kingdom for such a time as this, for having endowed him so plentifully with wisdom from on high, for his great trust, for having preserved his life so long through so many dangers, and for giving us such sure hope in his death. These are the closing remarks given at one of the funerals of President Abraham Lincoln, who even in his own time was seen as one who had accepted a call to stand before a mighty storm that had broken on a young nation. Lincoln's life as president was filled with a multitude of personal anxiety and fear over countless grievous decisions. He hated the war, the knife point on which his time as president balanced itself. He thought of slavery as a monstrous injustice and as a cancer. But even then he couldn't bring himself to hate his Southern brothers, saying, "They are just what we would be in their situation." His was an untiring commitment and sense of purpose both to end the war and to begin the process of reconciliation. The book of Esther paints a strikingly similar picture of not a man but a young woman who is perilously placed in the Persian royal house for such a time as this. As queen of King Xerxes, Esther was brought to one of the highest positions in Persia, when those in Xerxes' court were plotting the genocide of Persia's entire Jewish population. These were the Jews who chosen to remain there instead of returning to their homeland with Ezra and Nehemiah. You would expect this kind of story to be full of references to God, but it's interesting that this is the one book in the Bible in which God is never actually mentioned. Only in today's verse do we get a hint that someone like God might be working behind the scenes. Though God remains hidden in this book, we find a beautiful young Jewish woman placed as queen at just the perfect time when all her people were being condemned to death. God's plans are always running, whether we are able to see them or not. And if God was able to engineer things for the Jews in Persia, He's certainly still working things out for you. God has placed you too here on earth for a specific purpose, for such a time as this. Consider today what God's plans for your life might be at this time in history. May God bless you today.